It's Delia. That's me.
Hey Delia Boppers, what's up? I'll tell you what's up, this bra makes my boobs look amazing. So, I feel like you can learn a lot of interesting things on the internet. For example, did you know that there's a guy at BuzzFeed whose job is literally to drink a copious amount of wine and then bitch about things on the internet? Here's looking at you, BuzzFeed. Actually, interestingly enough, BuzzFeed came to me about the same time last year to ask me to help them out with a project regarding trans people. I don't remember what it was or know if the project ended up going through or anything like that, because shortly afterwards I found myself incredibly traumatized and with my mental state just really kind of completely fractured for a long time after I survived being raped under the influence of LSD. The year since then has also been very trying, as people who are very close to me are obviously very well aware. And as has been the case in other times where I've been subjected to sexual violence, I never really received justice as people would normally think of it for that. But regardless, I am a survivor, and so I found my own ways to just sort of find my own strength again in the past year and find ways to sort of try to work through that trauma, and I'm basically over it at this point as much as anyone could be. But at the same time, I've also had plenty of opportunity at this point to put good coping mechanisms into practice to sort of not let someone who hurt me continue to rent the space in my mind and make me fearful of living my life when I know that there are so many important things I have to do. And I also don't know that I'm necessarily really all that heartbroken over the BuzzFeed thing after things I've heard from Cat Black, but that's all besides the point, because what I wanted to talk to you about today as a survivor is sexual violence, and how we are no longer going to take sexual violence or apologism for sexual violence sitting down. This morning, my partner was having to deal with another woman, of all people, who was coming at her with this really misogynist mindset that I've been much more used to seeing coming out of men, which is this idea that false accusations of rape ruin men's lives. Okay, so I'm going to break down what's wrong with that sentence for you. We actually have statistics on this, which have shown that 1 in 4 women have been raped, obviously with the numbers having been higher for transgender women and women of color and women who are transgender and of color, and it's been shown that anywhere from 90 to 98% of accusations of rape are true. We also know that historically 1 in 9 men who have committed rape have not faced punishment for that action. So what the facts are saying to me, and this should be obvious, is that even true accusations of rape have yet to have really ruined men's lives, much less false accusations. I'm sorry, but an angry Cheeto is our president. Your argument is invalid. Sorry, not sorry. And, okay, we could spend the rest of this video talking about the other statistics. We could talk about how it's problematic and kind of revealing that the first people to jump to their own defense when this is a known issue are men. And we could talk about how it's been shown that men have been more likely to stand up for another man they don't even know who's been accused of rape than they are to believe a woman who has actually been raped. But those statistics are out there. You can Google them. It is not going to be our job to sit here and educate you endlessly over and over again on these topics. We have had the Yes All Women hashtag, we have had the Me Too hashtag, not to even mention the thousands of workshops on sexual violence before that we should never have even had to have had by rights if people were just brought up to respect a woman's rights to own her own body. We have had the studies and the reports. We have seen women like Kesha Rose Siebert, who is a fucking hero, hung up like they were fucking criminals for coming to even accuse a man of rape and still not get justice for it. And we're not going to continue to put up with this. The reality is that for a very long time, the system has actually been creating loopholes for perpetrators while shaming and silencing and really just overall failing to deliver justice to survivors. And this is the year that we are not going to deal with it anymore. This is the year we're going to start respecting survivors instead of shaming them. This is the year that we're going to encourage survivors to share their stories if they're brave enough to, instead of silencing them and accusing them of lying when they come out and do something so brave in the first place. And from now on, we are going to remember that silencing ourselves as survivors for the sake of the people who have hurt us is not helping anyone. We are going to accept how much it can hurt and how valid the pain really is that we experience coming out of these events, but instead of dwelling on that and focusing on that, we are going to use that to remember that other survivors are all around us. And we are going to remember that when we band together with one another, that we are stronger and that we can overcome this entire issue, and we will. We're not going to see ourselves the way that our haters want us to see ourselves, as victims. We are going to see ourselves as the survivors and the amazing, incredibly strong women that we are. We are going to shift the focus and the attention of this topic away from apologists and their gaslighty bullshit lies and back onto the truth, which is that survivors of sexual violence deserve justice regardless of our gender or the gender of our assailants. And together we will have that justice in our lives, and it will be beautiful, because we are going to remember that we are all worth it. No matter what that means for each of us as individuals in our personal lives, we're going to remember that people who respond to this issue with that kind of gaslighting bullshit are just outing themselves as to the kind of rape apologists they are. And we're going to move on with our days, because everyone in the world sees it and knows it. And we're going to just stop pretending that it was really ever any other way, because I'm pretty sure we all know that being a rape apologist has always been disgusting. We're going to remember that as survivors, we are strong. We're going to remember that the most impactful thing that we can do is to talk about it. We will remember how it strengthens us as a community of survivors, and together we will use that empowerment to put an end to sexual violence in 2018. We know that the idea that false accusations of rape ruin men's lives or are even an issue is false. And this is the year that we are going to come together as survivors to stop acting as though we should even have to engage with rape apologists when everyone is going to be able to see them for what they are on the basis of those falsehoods. People who love us will stand beside us and be there to comfort and support us and help us heal. And we, as a community of survivors, will come together in solidarity for one another and with one another. Even in cases where some of us may fear retribution for coming forward, and even in cases where for some of us it may just be a little bit too triggering to talk about the situations we've been in, we will still come together to love and support each other, because we've been there and we know what that's like, and we know what it is like to need to heal. And in coming together, we will heal, and we will build a better, brighter tomorrow. Because along with all of the other things that we are leaving in 2017, we are going to leave behind all of the myths surrounding sexual violence. We are going to leave behind the idea that it is ever a survivor's fault. And goddess help me, we are going to leave behind every single taboo we have still allowed to remain in place about a topic that can hurt so many people's lives so much. We will all continue to handle and cope with our own individual grief in our own ways, but we will all deal with that pain and that grief, and we will handle it, and we will cope with it, and we will move forward with our lives, even though we know that none of us ever deserved to have to experience that sexual violence, because we will also know that we have come out stronger in the end. And we will use that strength to find the courage to make art, to make music, to write our stories, to do whatever we can do to spread awareness to this issue, so that the entire world will have no choice but to take notice, as if they really should have had any choice but to take notice already. We will continue to learn from the examples of our heroes who have overcome their own personal struggles and found their own sense of victory and ability to keep going and to blossom wonderfully into new, amazing, soaring heights. And we will learn to do the same, because if there is anything I have even learned just in my own personal struggle, and seeing that reflected back at me in the trials of one of my own heroes, it is that there is life after survival, and that we are all capable of putting survival behind us and beginning to live again. And from now on, we will all remember that the people who deserve our time and focus and engagement when discussing this topic are the survivors who deserve to know that there is life and healing after surviving sexual violence. and not the rape apologists who already know that what they're saying is complete and utter bullshit. We as a society can and will do better than we have in the past, so that none of us will ever have to deal with that bullshit again. As always, thank you so very much for watching, and until next time, be yourself.